If you're over 50 and want to understand what's actually happening in your body, subscribe to the channel right now. I publish new content every week. Have you ever woken up with that feeling that your body is heavier than it should be? Pain that shows up for no clear reason, fatigue that doesn't go away even after a good night's sleep, swelling that comes and goes, and your doctor says your tests are normal. This might not be in your head, it could be silent chronic inflammation, and it affects more than half of all people over 50 without them ever knowing. Today I'm going to show you 7 signs your body uses to warn you that inflammation is running high. You'll recognize some of them immediately, and sign number 5 is the one that surprises people the most, because it seems to have nothing to do with inflammation. Stay until the end, because in the final section I'll show you the combination of 3 foods that recent research links to a reduction in chronic inflammation in adults over 50. Let's get into it. Before we get to the signs, I need to clear up a very common misconception. Most people hear the word inflammation and think of a sprained ankle, an infected cut, that redness that shows up and goes away. That's acute inflammation, and it's a good thing. It's your immune system doing exactly what it should. The problem is something else entirely. Low-grade chronic inflammation is silent, continuous, and doesn't show up on routine lab tests. It doesn't hurt in one specific place. It shows up as scattered signals throughout the body that seem completely unrelated to each other. And here's what most people don't know. After 50, the body has a natural tendency to inflame more. Researchers call this inflammaging, the inflammation tied to the aging process. It's not inevitable, but it's far more common than the numbers in doctors' offices reveal. That's why identifying these signs early makes all the difference. Here's what they look like. Sign number 1. Fatigue that doesn't go away with rest. I'm not talking about being tired after a long day. I'm talking about waking up rested and 2 hours later feeling that same exhaustion for no reason. When inflammation is elevated, the immune system is in a constant state of alert, and maintaining that alert state burns energy, a lot of it. The body is using its resources to fight something it perceives as a threat, even when you feel no pain. If you're over 50 and this unexplained fatigue shows up frequently, it deserves attention, especially if thyroid and hemoglobin levels have already been ruled out as the cause. The next sign is more visible, and most people chalk it up to getting older without looking any deeper. Sign number 2, persistent swelling, especially in the hands and face in the morning. Waking up with puffy fingers, difficulty making a fist, or that bloated feeling in your face in the morning. Chronic inflammation alters the permeability of blood vessels. Fluid leaks into the surrounding tissue more easily than it should. The result is that swelling that appears mainly after rest, when circulation is at its slowest. For adults over 50, this sign is even more relevant because vascular tone naturally decreases with age, which amplifies the effect. The difference between ordinary circulatory swelling and inflammatory swelling. The inflammatory kind typically comes accompanied by at least one other sign on this list. Here's the third, and this one shows up in digestion. Sign number 3, frequent digestive discomfort with no clear dietary cause, gas, abdominal bloating, swinging between constipation and loose stools, and you've already tried everything. You've cut lactose, gluten, too much fiber, too little fiber. Nothing fixes it for good. The intestinal wall is lined with a layer that acts as a barrier. When chronic inflammation is present, that barrier loses its integrity. Substances that should stay inside the gut pass into the bloodstream, which triggers the immune system further. A self-feeding cycle. Research shows that adults over 50 have gut microbiota that is significantly more vulnerable to this process than younger people. Sign number 4 is one most people dismiss as just stress. Sign number 4, joint pain that moves from place to place. Today it's the knee, tomorrow it's the shoulder. A few days later it shows up in the wrist. Joints that hurt in different locations. No injury, no overexertion, that ease up a little and then come back. This migratory pattern is typical of systemic inflammation, not localized wear and tear. Wear and tear hurts in the same spot every time. Inflammation moves around. The synovial membrane, which lines the joints, is extremely sensitive to inflammatory markers in the blood. When those levels rise, it reacts. And the result is exactly this pain that seems to have no fixed address. If this happens to you more than twice a month, it's worth asking your doctor for a C-reactive protein test, the most basic inflammatory marker available at any lab. Now for the sign that surprises people the most. Sign number 5, mood changes for no apparent reason, especially irritability. This one seems to have nothing to do with inflammation, but it does. Cytokines are molecules produced by the immune system during inflammatory processes. The problem is that they cross the blood-brain barrier, meaning they reach the brain. Once there, they directly interfere with the production of serotonin and dopamine. The practical result: easy irritability, a sense of low mood, little tolerance for everyday situations, and no clear emotional reason for any of it. Research in neuroimmunology over the past 10 years shows a direct correlation between elevated inflammatory markers and depressive symptoms in adults over 50. That doesn't mean every bout of irritability is inflammation, but when it shows up alongside other signs on this list, it deserves to be investigated in that context. 2 physical signs still to go, and number 6 shows up on your face. Sign number 6, skin redness, adult-onset acne, or unexplained breakouts. Inflamed skin after 50 rarely has anything to do with teenage hormones. The skin is the body's largest organ and one of the first to reflect what's happening internally. When inflammatory markers are elevated, the skin responds with diffuse redness, small breakouts, or that reactive skin look without any new product involved. In adults over 50, rosacea and seborrheic dermatitis have a strong association with low-grade chronic inflammation, far more than most dermatologists communicate during appointments. If your skin has changed behavior over the past 2 years without a clear explanation, this sign deserves to be part of the conversation with your doctor. Sign number 7, non-restorative sleep. You sleep, but you don't rest. You sleep 7 or 8 hours, but you wake up without energy, as if you hadn't really slept at all. Chronic inflammation directly interferes with sleep architecture, especially the deep sleep stages, where most cellular recovery happens. A body in an inflammatory state stays on alert even during rest, preventing sleep from reaching the depth it needs. And here's the cycle nobody tells you about. Poor sleep increases inflammation, and inflammation makes sleep worse. For adults over 50, breaking this cycle is one of the most powerful health levers that exists. Now for the practical part I promised. 3 foods with consistent evidence of reducing inflammatory markers in adults over 50 and how to combine them in a simple everyday way. First, turmeric with black pepper. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, has well-documented anti-inflammatory properties. The problem is that it's poorly absorbed on its own. Piperine from black pepper increases that absorption by up to 2000%, A pinch of each added to any warm meal is enough to activate this effect. Second, extra virgin olive oil, raw, oleocanthal, found in high-quality extra virgin olive oil, has a mechanism of action similar to ibuprofen at low doses, without the side effects. The key word is raw. Heat destroys the compound. 1 to 2 tablespoons drizzled over your finished dish every day. Third, fresh ginger. Gingerol inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes targeted by common anti-inflammatory medications. Use it in tea, grated into juices, or added to recipes. Studies use doses between 1 gram and 3 grams per day, the equivalent of a thin slice of fresh root. Important note: if you take blood thinners such as warfarin or aspirin, speak with your doctor before increasing your intake of turmeric or ginger. Both have mild anticoagulant properties. Today you saw the 7 signs that chronic inflammation leaves in the body after 50, from unexplained fatigue to sleep that never restores. And the good news is that these signs are trackable, and diet plays a direct role in managing this process. Taking care of inflammation after 50 isn't excessive, it's smart prevention. If this video was useful to you, please hit the like button. It helps this channel grow and reach more people who need this information. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next videos. And share this with someone over 50 you know. It might be exactly what they needed to see today. Let me know in the comments. Which of these 7 signs have you noticed in your own body? I read every comment. See you in the next video.